Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating developmental roadmap. We're looking at the research of leading developmental psychologists, folks like Erikson, Levinson, and Arnett, but we're applying their work specifically to the incredibly unique conditions of someone born right around 1991. This isn't about fortune-telling or predicting the future. It's really about recognizing deep, research-backed patterns. We're exploring how generational, economic, and developmental forces all interact across an entire lifetime. To understand exactly where you are today in 2026, we need to trace this journey chronologically, from your origins all the way into your future legacy. So we'll quickly cover the analog-digital foundation, launching into the crisis, consolidation in COVID, the maturation window, priorities for 2026 to 2030, and finally, integration and legacy.
Okay, let's dive into this. We are looking at 6 distinct life phases that track this cohort's psychological development alongside some major historical milestones, stretching all the way from childhood in the 90s well past 2046.
First up, Section 1, the analog-digital foundation, ages 0 to 17.
During this foundational period, this cohort had a highly unique technological upbringing. This brilliantly illustrates your secret weapon. You experienced an analog developmental foundation that was followed by a digital adolescent overlay. The defining psychological achievement here was forming a dual codec identity. If you were born around 1991, your cognitive baseline was built in a completely analog world. But then, right as you hit adolescence, it was augmented by digital tools. You didn't replace your analog brain, you just added to it. You essentially speak 2 technological languages natively. This dual framework is a massive asset that will see payoff big time later in the timeline.
But it wasn't just technology shaping this phase. Formative historical disruptions, specifically the shock of 9/11 and the early 2007 warning signs of the global financial crisis, punctuated those childhood and teenage years. And that implanted a baseline expectation known as skeptical realism. It's this ingrained, deep-seated belief that stable systems can just fail without any warning. Throughout adulthood, this mindset serves as a highly protective asset, though, it can definitely be an underlying source of anxiety too.
Which brings us to Section 2, launching into the crisis, ages 18 to 25.
Structurally speaking, researchers recognize this as literally the most adverse launch phase of any generation in the post-World War II era. This cohort entered the adult world directly into the brutal headwinds of the global financial crisis. The adversities were intense. Massive educational debt paired up with credential-inflated entry requirements, first jobs that were wildly misaligned with your actual training, and economic mobility that felt fundamentally constrained. But here is the absolutely critical takeaway. Navigating these exact brutal conditions is what built genuine, long-term resilience and fierce career adaptability. Because of those intense headwinds, developmental researcher Jeffrey Arnett's emerging adulthood framework applies perfectly here. Full identity commitment, like locking in exactly who you are and what your career is, was effectively pushed back. For this group, identity consolidation was delayed right into your mid-20s, specifically around age 25, simply out of sheer economic and structural necessity.
Moving on to Section 3, consolidation and COVID, ages 26 to 34. During this window, your career seniority finally began catching some real economic traction, and a lot of folks experienced a high rate of relationship revision. Then, right in the middle of this consolidation, the COVID-19 pandemic hit like a freight train. It acted as a massive inflection point. It accelerated remote work, forced a total reconsideration of where people lived, and triggered this profound developmental question: what do I actually want?
Because of that questioning, the key psychological achievement of this phase was the crucial process of differentiation. It was the gradual, sometimes messy work of untangling what you actually value from what you were socialized to value. It's like a giant puzzle, distinguishing your self-constructed identity from your externally imposed identity. And this internal sorting is exactly what prepares you for the heavy lifting of the next phase.
Now for Section 4, the maturation window, ages 35 to 44. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we have officially arrived at the current phase in 2026.
The developmental research is remarkably consistent about the high-stakes nature of this decade. You are experiencing a profound tension right now. On one hand, you're at your peak capacity. You have tremendous internal power, peak organizational influence, the ability to manage really complex situations, and the opportunity to fully integrate your identity. But, and it's a huge but, this is happening at the exact same time as your peak demand.
You are facing immense external pressures demanding your energy, caring for aging parents or young kids, heavy institutional commitments at work, and the absolute need to lock in your financial structure. It is a decade defined entirely by the friction between your maximum power and your maximum responsibility.
And for the 1991 cohort specifically, this high-pressure maturation window collides with a massive societal shift, the AI-mediated disruption of knowledge work. So how do you navigate it? Well, remember your secret weapon from Phase 1? Your dual codec adaptability is your greatest asset here. Having survived the analog-to-digital shift, you already have the metacognitive framework to handle this AI revolution. You've successfully done a civilizational tech transition before. You are uniquely equipped to do it again.
Section 5. Priorities for 2026 to 2030. Let's look at the actionable roadmap.
Because we are at the critical start of this maturation window right now, the data gives us a strategic checklist to navigate it. Institutionally, you need to audit where loyalty has become asymmetric and renegotiate those overcommitments. Financially, accelerate your consolidation for the highest compound returns. Organizationally, explicitly position your dual codec background to build intergenerational bridge roles. For your family, design elder care structures proactively before a crisis actually hits. In your career, develop AI-resilient expertise. Remember, your depth and judgment, not mere task execution, are your durable advantages. And finally, health. Invest in your relational and physical infrastructure right now.
So the crucial point is this: you absolutely cannot run on autopilot during this phase. You must take immediate, actionable steps to protect your energy and your future trajectory. Audit your organizational loyalty, maximize your financial returns today, and lay down the physical health habits that will carry you through the next 20 years. This is the heavy lifting that sets up the rest of your life.
Finally, Section 6. Integration and Legacy. Ages 45 to 55 and beyond.
Once you successfully navigate that maturation window, the roadmap shifts dramatically from accumulating your identity to contributing it back. The primary developmental achievement of this upcoming stage is what psychologist Erikson called generativity, or building a generative legacy. It's this profound shift where success is no longer just about your own advancement. Instead, it's about the deep sense that your work, your relationships, and your institutional contributions are building something enduring, something that will outlast your own direct engagement.
For this specific cohort, researchers predict the strong emergence of the encore career during this phase. After accumulating 25 years of deep expertise, your professional life gets completely restructured. Instead of maximizing income, the focus shifts entirely to meaning and contribution. You'll see this deep expertise monetized in really novel, fulfilling forms. Think mentorship, education, advisory roles, and consulting. Which brings us to our final thought. The generation born around 1991 lived through the entire digital transition, from pre-internet childhoods all the way to AI-integrated mature adulthood. You carry a totally unique historical and interpretive authority that no other cohort possesses. So, as you move toward a longer, restructured, and much more flexible future, the big question is, as the ultimate analog-digital bridge generation, how will you use this unique authority to shape the next chapter of society? It's your legacy to design. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.